Welcome to the Mr. Matt and Mr. Chay Q&A. First question, please, Dennis.
And today we have Q&A. First off, we got a question from that is Transporting Adventures. What kind of elevators are your favorite?
Depends from what era. If you're talking about modern day ones, then that's very difficult because I don't particularly like many modern day lifts. I'm more into the older generation. But if you were to force me to give you an answer, I'd probably say Mitsubishi, because they are quite smooth. The chimes are quite nice. If you're talking about the 90s, well, I saw a few Fujitech lifts and they were quite interesting. On the landings, there's one at Peacock's shopping centre in Woking. I think they've probably been modernised now, but they used to have like the old-fashioned bell for when the lifts arise at the floors. The lanterns on the landings were quite interesting, and they were the first lifts to say computer control inside. If you're talking about really old lifts, then again that's difficult. I tend to like them all really. So then you've got Express, Otis, Schindler, Benny. But again, if you were to force me to give you an answer, I'd probably say Schindler, because they have the most interesting floor selector wheel thing. Next question.
Is any plans to visit Stockholm anytime soon for a meetup?
If I'm ever in Stockholm, then I shall let you know, but I don't really go out to places just to film lifts. I'm normally there due to my work. So if I'm ever in Stockholm, I shall let you know, and I shall be very interested to meet up with you. So far I've been to many places. I think Norway was my closest, but I've not been to Sweden yet. Question number 3, please, Dennis.
The next question comes from Aiden Stanning. Have you ever been stuck in a lift as it needed to be rescued?
Yes, I have. It was when I was about 25. I had a apprentice with me and we were in a car park, and at that particular time I was quite naughty really. We were doing some cable experiments, and this time it got jammed into the door lock on the landing. Went up to the first floor, doors open, doors closed, went back down to the ground floor, and the doors refused to open. And what's quite an interesting thing was there was a motorised siren on top of the lift car, and you know, like the Broadmoor sirens, it was like one of them, and it went like that, and it shut down. And then the intercom come on a few seconds later, and it was the security guy in the car park, and he came out, and we had to act like, oh my god, it's broken down, how am I going to get out of here, I'm really shaking. I was really shaking because I was really shaking in case he found out what we'd actually been doing. But I managed to open the internal doors. I managed to pull the cable out of the door lock, and that then released the doors. But it did try to open the doors a few times. It sort of like tried to open and shut, tried to open and shut, and then it shut down. So that's the only time I actually got stuck in a lift and had to be rescued, and it was my fault. Next question is question number 4, please, Dennis.
In that lifts and transport, what is your favorite brand or type of modern lift? Around 2000 euro?
So now you have forced me into giving you my favourite lift from year 2000 onwards. Let's refer to my notes because I have all the notes on my monitor here just in case I get stuck, because I'm not really that good at spontaneous answers. If you ask me 2010 or newer, then I don't have one. Year 2000, I'll go for Fujitech or Mitsubishi, which is what I've said already. And I've also noted here that I need to get excited to like a lift, and modern day lifts just don't really do it for me. So what was your question? What is your favourite brand or type of modern lift? My favourite brand is probably Mitsubishi. Older lifts? Yes. Newer lifts? I don't really get excited with newer lifts. So that's my answer. Question number 5.
What is your favorite siren that is not from Broadmoor?
That's difficult because I don't really know of any sirens that are outside of the Broadmoor sirens. We don't really have them on fire stations. We used to have them in the 1980s, 1990s, and I think they were taken out early 1990s, around where I live, and they were obviously for the war. They used to go off sometimes in thunderstorms, taken out a long time ago. I can't even remember when they were taken out, but there are no sirens around here to comment on apart from the Broadmoor ones. So that means question number 6.
If you had a chance, would you come to Wellington in New Zealand to see some of our epical lifts and sirens?
The places where I go to film lifts, due to me having work in those countries. So my company would send me out to these countries, I'll do my work, and then in the evening, or maybe in the hotel I'm staying, I'll go and track them down and obviously try and get into motor rooms and stuff. My company probably won't really send me out that far. New Zealand, I'm not really a traveller as well, you know. I only go to these places if my company sends me to these places. But if I was in New Zealand, then yep, certainly like to meet up. But the thing is with different countries, you guys obviously know your countries better than what I do. I've got no idea what town to start from and where to go. And to see the sirens, yeah, that'd be quite interesting, but I think I'd have to go there on a day that they were sounding, because that makes the video a lot more interesting. So, answer to my question is, if I'm ever in New Zealand, I will let you know. Probably won't be, to be honest. Question 7, please, Dennis.
What's your favorite old brand lift or type? Let's say anything made before 1990.
My favourite old brand? Well, I've kind of covered this already. Favourite one will probably be the Express, but the DMR range, and I've only got one video with that, and that was one of the first videos that I started with. They don't exist anymore. There used to be one, I think, in the Kodak Tower in Hemel Hempstead. The other one that I filmed was in central London. I can tell you what it is. It's the old, well, not old, but it's the Rolls-Royce building in London. So that was the one that I filmed with my Otis friend. Lifts have long since been taken away. That was a real shame because they were some classics, and I don't think you'll ever find them anywhere in the country again. So that would be my first one, but that's gone, so it doesn't count anymore. My favourite old brand lift would be Otis. Only the old ones. The Otis 2000s and the Gen 2s. No, that's not included in the list. Favourite lift from before year 1990? Probably is going to be Otis. I just find them a little bit more scary than the other ones, and if it's more scary, then to me it takes you back to my childhood a little bit more, where I was afraid of those lifts. Also the motor rooms in an Otis lift, the older ones, I just love that carriage selector and the meat slicer floor leveler. That's pretty good. So it's Otis. Next question, please.
Alex Milligan. How do you manage to find all of these lifts?
Year 2008, or it could be 2009, was the last time that I actually went out into a town centre looking for old lifts. The lifts that I find now are just due to where I'm working. So if they send me to a different country, which is not all that often really, but I do go to some places, then the buildings that I'm in, sometimes they've got them, and obviously I will try and film them, and if possible get into the motor rooms. So it's really from me being at the location where I am, and if there just happens to be a lift there, which is quite interesting, then I will film it. But that's about it really. I don't really have a database of lifts to visit. I just happen to find them depending where I am. Before I left school, I was afraid of lifts, and I used to be quite interested in them, but I was afraid of them at the same time. So if my parents went in a lift, then I'd always try and use the stairs to avoid travelling in them. But then when I left school, got my car, I went to a car park in Luton. It's not there anymore. It used to be the bus station car park, and if you go right to the top of the stairwell, then that's where the motor room was, and there used to be a glass panel missing. And if you look through the glass panel, there it is. There's the motor, the gearbox. It was all there to just film through the window. So that was the first time I actually saw my first motorroom. Did I film it? Yes, but this is 1991 or 92. It was on the old-fashioned video recorders, and that tape's gone. I don't know where it is. I probably recorded over it. I got no idea, but yes, I did film it. After I saw my motorroom and realised that they weren't really monsters, they were just machines that people had made, then I started to get interested in them. I started learning a little bit more about them. Now, from filming them, you can play back the footage, and then you can realise things, like in my incredibly informative lift video. The lift in there had all those LEDs on the input-output cards, and I managed to record the footage from 3 cameras. I put all the footage together, and then you can see exactly what's happening. So you can see that when I press this button, this LED comes up on the controller. And I'm interested in electronics and input-output cards, and especially relays. So you just study the footage and just work it out. I've also been interested in lifts since I was about, I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 years old, I think. So that's a long time. I'm 42 now. That's a long time to study lifts and try and work things out and generally be interested in them. So it's really just from studying the footage and from working things out. And also not forgetting I have an Otis friend, and anything that I didn't know, he managed to answer all the other questions.
How do you get access to that machine rooms?
Right, so that question 10 is quite difficult for me to answer, especially with a camera pointing right at me, recording my own voice saying it. Well, some of those videos I'm actually with my Otis friend. He didn't want to be filmed, and I removed his voice. He's probably in the background. The other ones are much more difficult to answer, because yes, there is a way to get into motorrooms. Sometimes I find them unlocked, simple as that. Like the Tesco one, the O&K. Well, it was a little bit daring, but it was unlocked. So of course I did not go up the ladder and film that lift. The other ones, if you send me a private message, I will tell you how I got into them.